a heart that hurts. I want to spend my life mending broken people. I want to spend my life mending broken people. Hello, friends. Welcome to Thursday Night Live here at 3ABN. My name is John Lomacang, and to my left is...
I'm the wife, his co-host,
right. She is
Angela Lomacang, and we're so happy to be here tonight to join you, and we are going to have a blessed time. Tonight, it's going to be all kind of medical. If you have questions, we have a phone number for you. So before we get into that, let's not get into questions right now.
That's right. Let's just, this is going to be an exciting program. Many of you wonder about health, and health has been one of the favorite topics here on 3ABN. We're going to be talking about longevity. Who doesn't want to live long? Who doesn't want to live a healthy life? And we are going to introduce something tonight that it has a nice spin to it, and I know you're going to want to know what that is, the Methuselah Factor. You theologians, relax for a while. There are some people that never heard the word Methuselah. It's not an island, it's not a country. You'll find out what that's all about, and I'm excited about this because whenever we have medical programs, honey, people respond.
They do. Everyone has issues, or either them or someone they know have issues. Medical issues.
And in this world where medical is so expensive, you know, we talk about health care, and but we don't want to ignore our guests. We want to just make sure that before we go any further, we let people know who we have here tonight. Yes. There's a doctor in the house. Why don't you introduce our doctor for us?
Dr. DeRose, we're glad to have you here. Welcome.
It's great to be with you.
And since I'm so close, I'll just shake your hand and say, Dr. David DeRose, good to have you here tonight.
Yes.
Good to be here with you, John and
Angie. He's a regular, isn't he? He's been on 3ABN many times.
Oh, it's exciting every time to work with you, to just see the energy here and the great things that are happening.
Amen.
And thank you for your research and your dedication to medicine. And there's some other things happening in your life. We'll hold on. We don't want to do that right away.
Okay.
But tonight we're going to be talking about the Methuselah Factor. Before we even go into that, tell our audience there are viewers, and for 3ABN Radio there are
listeners.
Okay. Tell us who you are, where you're from, and what you do right now, because inevitably there's somebody in the audience that is meeting you for the first time.
Sure. I mean, my background is very diverse. So I grew up not all that far from here. At least I can say that now living in California. I grew up in Chicago.
All right.
And the Lord got my attention as a young adult, directed me into medicine, later brought me into the college classroom and into pastoral ministry. So I've done a mix of medical work, teaching and pastoring over the years. So it's been an interesting journey, and one of the things I love to do is just connect the dots, because I find that the Bible gives us a perspective on whole person healing that most people are totally oblivious to. Even Christians, even believers are often dealing with health issues that they could avoid if they just put into practice the principles of the Bible.
Wow. You know, a lot of Christians today, and you know the son, a lot of Christians today don't have a health plan in their churches at all.
No.
A lot of pastors don't talk about it. There's this idea that it's our body, we can put whatever we want into it and expect, like an expensive machine, to get the best performance, but we wouldn't do that to an expensive car. What makes our bodies any different? We'll talk about that.
Exactly.
Wow. Well, honey, we have some music tonight, and I want our audience to know who we have, and before we go into our program.
Yes, we do. The Birchfield Brothers are going to play or sing a song called "'Tis So Sweet." Beautiful.
Wonderful. I want to learn how to play guitar that way.
Yeah. What did you say to me during when he was playing?
That's the kind of guy I'd like to have on an album.
Yes.
So clear and so clean.
Yes,
What a
thank
blessing.
you.
And this program actually is talking about trusting Jesus, trusting him with our body, the body he designed. Who better to trust than the person that designed us? And tonight we're going to be talking about that. And we're also going to have some questions in the second hour.
Oh, yeah.
For those who want to send their questions in, you can send them to live@3abn.tv or the phone number.
618-627-4651. So if you have questions, medical or health questions, just email us or call us, and we'll answer that in the second hour.
And just before we dive into the program, we have some good news.
Yeah.
There's a great event that we all look forward to coming up not too many days from now.
No.
And it is our camp meeting, our spring
Wednesday.
camp meeting. What are the dates, honey?
Oh, it's June 5th through the 8th, 3ABN Spring Camp Meeting, Law of Love and Liberty. It's going to be a tremendous blessing.
And we have speakers like John Bradshaw,
Yes.
Cameron DeVazier, Jay Gallimore, Ty Gibson, Wintley Phipps.
John Lomacang.
Oh, I'm in there somewhere.
Yeah,
James
Murray.
Rafferty's.
It's going to be Danny Shelton. It's going to be powerful.
Good music. And if you cannot be here in person, don't forget to tune in. This is
Yeah.
going to be a power-packed camp meeting. And it's along the lines of the Ten Commandments. Well, it's the Ten Commandments.
is.
But we're approaching it from a different perspective, the law of love and liberty. Because a lot of people think of the commandments, and just recently I talked to somebody about this, they think of it as a prohibitive, works-oriented document. And by the way, just for a note, the only thing that the Ten Commandments mention about work is thou shalt not do any work. So we want to refamiliarize all of our Christian brethren and even people that may not be Christian. What is the Ten Commandments? What are the Ten Commandments really all about? Law of love and liberty.
That's right.
And it's the
gonna be
big camp meeting.
It's going to be huge. We have a lot of people coming.
That's right.
So come on, it's going to start Wednesday, so you don't want to miss it. It's going to be, you're going to be blessed. That's all we know.
And we have camping spaces. If you didn't reserve a camping space yet, it might be too late, but you just call 3ABN.
And we have food for everyone.
Free
Breakfast-
food.
Free food, breakfast and lunch.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be amazing. But now let's, and we're going to dive into our program.
Yeah.
Dr. DeRose, when we sat down, actually when we got the notice that you were going to be here, and they said, could you host the program, you and your wife, Thursday night? And we thought, if it's medical, it has to be Hans Deal. But then they said, Dr. DeRose, and I found out from my wife, he's one of 3ABN's favorites. Radio, television, whenever you appear here, people say, oh, Dr. DeRose. Give us a little bit about your background, kind of let people know what you've been doing through the course of your medical, pastoral, and all the things that are behind you.
Well, as far as my professional training, I have boards. I'm a board-certified specialist in internal medicine, but also in preventive medicine. So in addition to seeing patients in the clinic, I'll be back in the clinic in a couple of weeks. We actually do a lot with prevention. That's working with communities, not just working with individuals. Just last week, I was in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I was one of the presenters at Prevention 2019. So I was presenting a paper about the book that we're speaking about tonight, The Methuselah Factor.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
The preventive medicine community is interested in this because we're finding that this concept we're talking about, it has to do with blood fluidity. I know we'll discuss it in the course of the program, but we're finding that it can address some of the most pressing issues we have in public health. We can talk about that in a little bit. But as far as my background,
Yes.
so it's that clinical, seeing patients one-on-one,
Yeah.
it's the public health, but it's also media. So for some 16 years, I've
Right.
hosted a weekly syndicated radio show. We go out on about 170 stations. It's called American Indian Living. Especially talking to people in Indian country. And I've been dealing with some of those contexts. Just this last week, I was speaking at a conference in Oklahoma last month. The Southern Plains Indian Health Group pulled that together. I was speaking about topics that relate to the Methuselah Factor, improving our blood fluidity, how that can help people in Indian country. A lot of chronic health issues among Native Americans, just like every other segment of the population. You talk about diabetes, heart disease, and the thing is, from those public health perspectives and the clinical medical perspectives, John and Angie, we can make a huge difference. Tie it in with your other point. God, I believe, is wanting us to connect with really the owner's manual. God wants to show us how to care for our bodies, and it's exciting to me to help people do that.
Wow. I like that, the way he said the owner's manual.
I know.
Because everything comes with an owner's manual.
Yes. And the health is what? The right arm of the three angels' messages.
That's
So
right.
It goes perfect.
It's really interesting to me. So I wear these different hats. As a pastor, I've been inspired by Jesus' ministry. And a lot of people, like you said, in Christian churches, they don't have a strong emphasis on health. But if you look at Jesus' ministry, Jesus wasn't just about teaching and preaching.
Right.
He was very much about healing.
Healing,
So if we
amen.
want to do justice to carrying on Jesus' commission, we have to be interested in physical health and in health ministry.
Okay, we have to start with the key question, and it is, what is the...
Methuselah.
Okay,
Factor.
the Methuselah Factor. So you teased us with this earlier, but in Genesis 5, we read about the longest lived person on this planet.
Yes.
It was Methuselah. He lived 969 years, okay?
Wow.
Here's what I tell people. We don't have any blood work on Methuselah. We don't have any medical records. But we can be sure, because he lived that long, that he had good Chemo Rheology. Have you heard that one before?
No.
Not until today.
Okay. Chemo Rheology is the medical science of blood fluidity. It's the science of how your red blood cells can optimize their role of bringing oxygen to your tissues, helping nutrition get everywhere it needs to go in your body.
I've heard of hemoglobin.
Hemoglobin
Okay.
is a oxygen-carrying pigment in the blood. Hemo refers to blood. Rheology refers to flow, the flow properties of complex fluids. So hemorheology is the science of blood fluidity.
Okay.
And I've been talking about this for years to patients and audiences because it's so important. If we can improve our blood fluidity, we can lower our risk of heart attacks, decrease our risk of strokes. A lot of people say, "Oh, that's obvious. If the blood flows better, you're not going to have a problem with blood flow to the brain or the heart." But no. You can also improve your vision, decrease your risk of visual problems. You want to lose weight, you want to prevent weight gain, improve your hemorheology. You want your brain to function better, improve your blood fluidity. I call it the Methuselah Factor because I would speak for an hour or two to a lay audience,
Right.
and I had this great fear. Somebody's going to walk out of the lecture, they're going to say, "Oh, I just heard this amazing lecture from Dr. DeRose." Well, what was it about? And the person would say, "It was about call it the Methuselah Factor.
Exactly.
Okay, it was about
Yeah.
the Methuselah
That's a
Factor,
good one.
blood fluidity.
Wow. So how did you
exciting.
discover this? I mean, Methuselah, we know about, there's a riddle, who's the oldest man that ever lived whose father never died? Right?
Okay, you got it.
Okay, and you know what his father is?
His father, actually, the amazing thing about this whole lineage, so you've got Enoch,
That's right.
who was translated to heaven,
Yeah.
and then Methuselah, who died in the year of the flood.
That's
Yeah.
right.
I mean, it's an amazing connection there that really connects us with what God is trying to help save us from. He's trying to save us from death, and he can do it in multiple ways. Some will be resurrected without seeing death.
That's right.
Others will have slept in the grave, and they'll be resurrected.
It's interesting. Life is in the blood, isn't it?
It really is. The Bible says that. And in fact, years ago, many of our viewers and many of our listeners know that one of the founders of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, Ellen White,
Yes.
spoke a lot about health. She was
Yes, she
really,
did.
I believe, and this is saying a lot for me to say this.
Yes.
I didn't want anything to do with Ellen White when I first heard about her. I wasn't raised a Seventh-day Adventist. But amazing thing, this woman, from a medical science perspective, seemed to hit the nail right on the head
That's
with so many of the things she said. One of the things she said once was perfect health depends on perfect circulation.
Wow.
And no doubt, 100 years ago and beyond, when people heard that, they said, "Oh, beautiful poetry." This is cutting-edge medical science. If you want to have optimal health, you've got to have optimal blood fluidity. And I think God opened that light to Ellen White, and she shared that. And if we apply this principle today, we'll have better health, we'll live longer, and we'll live better.
How did you discover this?
Yeah. I can't take credit for it. In fact, if you open up the book, this new book we've got out is called The Methuselah Factor. This will connect us with some of my history with 3-ABN, actually. Because if you open the book up and you just page in there a little bit, you'll see, there's something about the author. You'll see a little bit of a foreword. But one of the things that every book has is a dedication. And at the very beginning, it's dedicated to the late Burnell Baldwin, PhD. Dr. Baldwin.
Dr. Baldwin.
Yeah, you remember Burnell.
Yes.
Very effective health communicator. Dr. Baldwin, this was some 30 years ago or more, was invited to do some programming here at 3ABN.
Yes.
He invited me to join him.
Yes.
And so my first exposure to 3ABN was through Dr. Baldwin. We did
Yes.
some segments here years ago. And Burnell was also the one who introduced me years ago to the science of Chemo Rheology, blood fluidity. And I've been fascinated with it over the years. And as I've worked with patients, and as I've worked in lifestyle centers, I've seen people's health dramatically turn around. And one of the common denominators is we're looking at lifestyle factors, natural factors that improve blood fluidity. And that's what we finally put into this book, The Methuselah Factor.
So, question, honey?
No, keep going.
I mean, so when you think about, because we talked about blood fluidity, I think back to some of the examples that came to my mind. I remember running into a gentleman in Missouri once. Actually, it was in a store, an electronics store. And for whatever reason, we just struck up a conversation, and he felt at liberty to tell me about something that had happened in his life. He told me his age. I think at the time he was just 47 years old, and he said, I had a major heart attack about a year and a half ago. And I said, but how old are you? And he said, 47. Asian gentleman. And it's very rare that in that culture that heart attacks is a big, because their diet, the Asian factor, a lot of vegetables. But he said to me, every day I took a dozen donuts to work, and I had a large coffee. That was my practice every single day. And one day it almost killed me. And I found out how much fat my blood had in it, and it almost had stopped flowing.
No, I mean, this is a huge problem worldwide. So when we came out with the book 3 years ago, 30 Days to Natural Blood Pressure Control, we were speaking a little bit about this, off air. Now one of the best-selling books on Amazon.
Wow.
Earlier today, it was the #1 bestseller in preventive medicine.
I'm going to hold it up here.
Take
a shot of that.
People responding to that book dramatically. Churches using it to transform the health of their communities. But one criticism we've gotten from some people about the book is they said, great ideas, many people changing their lives with it, but there's some people say, we want to know what to do every single day. You said it's a 30-day plan. We want some, tell me what to do every day. So when we were writing the Methuselah Factor book, we said, okay, we're going to do that. Every day, you open the last 30 chapters, what do you think it is? Day 1, here's what you do. Day 2, here's what you do. So actually, these two books kind of complement each other.
I see.
And the Methuselah Factor broadens the discussion to not just blood pressure, but speaking about mental performance, physical performance. If you're an athlete,
That's right.
if you're an athlete and you want to improve your physical performance, if you get serious about the Methuselah Factor, Chemo Rheology, by actual measurement, your muscle strength can improve, your endurance can improve. So we're talking about something that can transform health, simple things. Now here's your story, back to your story. 47-year-old man with a stroke.
Yes.
Two of the things
Heart
we talk
attack.
about.
Heart attack.
Heart attack. Thanks for keeping me straight. Sugar, caffeine. Those are two things that are undermining our blood fluidity, in addition to the blood fat issue that you mentioned.
Right.
So one of the days in here, we talk about cut the caffeine. Now someone says, okay, I'm not buying the Methuselah Factor book, I'm not leaving off my coffee. We don't say you got to get rid of it. Now that is the best strategy.
Right.
But we're trying to move people in the right direction. So on the 30-day approach with the Methuselah Factor, one of the days, early on, we're saying start to cut back on the caffeine.
Yes.
Cut down on the sugar. We give some practical ways to cut down on sugar. If you're not reading labels, I mean, it's so funny to me, John.
Wow.
People think they're doing something good for their health. I'm getting the organic granola, Dr. DeRose. And you look at the organic granola, the list, and it's got about half of the calories are sugar.
Right.
Okay? It may be organic.
Sticks together, all the glue they put in it, hold it together.
So
Now, if you ate the granola just dry, that's a different story altogether.
Listen, whole grains, winners. They're winners as far as optimal health. So it's an exciting topic, and we're so glad that many people are catching on.
But sugar, didn't Ellen White say something about sugar? It would be a poison?
It clogs the brain, clogs your whole system. And if you want to have optimal blood fluidity, sugar is not, it's not high on the list. I'm not saying you got to be zero sugar. I mean, we've got to have carbohydrates. But boy, some of these diets, I mean, they're just crazy.
And in some cases, it's a balance. Now, I've remembered years ago, you might remember this illustration, somebody at a health seminar, they had a red light, a yellow light, and a green light. They said, now there are certain things for optimal health that are in the red light category. Just don't introduce them into your body. I think Nice Collins says, don't put into your body what you're going to try to get rid of later on.
Great.
And
great
so that's
point.
the red category. And he said the yellow category, like, I don't know, all the things he put in. He said that these are the things that your body can do without. But if you put them in moderation, it won't harm the body. Then he said there's a green category. Fruits and vegetables and nuts and grains. He said, no limit there, and your body would be excited about it. How does this fit into the Methuselah Factor?
Well, you're right. There are general principles, but then we have to individualize them. So the Methuselah Factor, although it's a 30-day program, so someone going through the program, they're walking through. One day we're talking about eating more beans, for example. Now, let's just make it practical. If someone really is allergic to beans, they can't tolerate them. They're poison to them. Some people know. I'm thinking of someone who said beans are poison to me. If you really can't tolerate beans, leave them out. If you're a diabetic, eating a lot of fruits may be a problem, may push your blood sugar too high. So yes, these are generally healthy foods, but we individualize it. In the first 2 days of the program, one of the things we're doing, we encourage people to be bold. Don't say, well, 30 days, I'll just take it easy. No, challenge yourself. Really put this program to work. The second thing, though, is we tell people to measure things. If you're a diabetic, measure your blood sugars. If you have high blood pressure, watch your blood pressure during the program. If you're trying to trim down your weight, watch your weight. Maybe not every day, but every week during the 1-month program.
Wow, so it fits into so many different areas. Question, honey?
Well, I did have a question. What kind of things can we do to improve our hemothyology? Was it or blood?
The Methuselah Factor.
Thank you. Forget the.
But that was beautiful. You illustrated it perfectly. No, really, a lot of people can't remember that term, Chemo Rheology. So we say, forget about that. Just call it the Methuselah Factor.
I like that.
How can we improve it?
Yeah.
Okay. One of the great things is physical activity.
Oh.
And just go ahead and open the book. I mean, you've got a copy in front of you.
Yeah.
So if you look here, what I'm doing is I'm turning to part 2. So part 1 tells all the conditions that are associated with blood fluidity. So you see a chapter on decreasing the risk of a heart attack, decreasing the risk of stroke, maintaining good eye health, decreasing your risk of cancer. You see how that works there?
Yes,
okay? But then the last section of the book, part 2, is a 30-day program. And if you look there, right in day 3, that's chapter 17, move more. So here's the deal, okay? Someone says to me, Dr. DeRose, I already believe in exercise. Every day I go out and I get my mail.
Okay. Oh, that's not.
Well, we're saying move more.
Right.
So maybe you're going to make 2 trips to the mailbox, at least the first week.
Right.
You don't have to do a marathon. In fact, that may kill you. Okay, if all you're doing is walking to the mailbox. But we're trying to help people gradually ramp up their lifestyle for 30 days, simple, practical things. Eating better, exercising better. Now some people are going to find this crazy, John. Now, you may have heard of this idea before. So you said, where did I come up with this? This was not original. But every 7th day in the program, we ask people to take a day of rest. How many of you think that sounds like a novel approach?
I think the Lord thought about that long before you did.
I think you got it sized up.
Here it is, rest and refresh.
So day 7, you can see rest and refresh. Listen, we wrote this book not for Christians, not for Seventh-day Adventists. It was written for everybody.
That's right.
Same with our blood pressure book. So yes, there are spiritual principles here. Every 7th day, we connect people with spiritual principles. But these are principles that work whether you're an atheist, an agnostic, a Christian. I'm not saying it doesn't matter what you believe, but I'm just saying we're trying to help everyone. So look at day 14, seek spirituality. Day 21, you notice these are all multiples of 7. Day 21, be humble. Day 28, forgive.
Oh, wow.
If someone has had a terrible experience with the church of their childhood, with the synagogue of their childhood, with the temple of their childhood, whatever, and they feel they're an atheist today, the medical research shows you would still help your health by being more forgiving.
Wow.
We talk about kindness. We talk about some fascinating stuff in this book, the dangers of Botox injections.
Ooh.
In this book have to do with your blood fluidity.
Wow,
Oh.
so, I mean, that's amazing because when you introduce the things that were not
These
diet.
are practical things,
Very
forgiveness, and even breathe deeply.
Breathing deeply, it's amazing. Deep breathing.
My watch tells me to breathe deeply. Take deep breaths.
No, this stuff, a lot of people look at this. There's over 400 references in here. Well, let me make sure I'm telling the truth. I better look. Let me look.
But as you're looking at that, I think about
372 references.
So sometimes it's not what you're eating, but it's what's eating you.
Wow, you got it. You
Okay.
got it. Because stress hormones tighten blood vessels. They make your blood less fluid. A lot of people don't realize this. When they drink the caffeine to give them a boost,
Right.
Yeah.
they're also making their platelets, the clotting cells, more sticky. It's impairing blood flow. What caffeine is doing, one of the things, it's raising those stress hormones. And that's the same thing you do or I do when we get all stressed out.
That's right.
Yeah, so you're exactly right. It's not just what you're eating, but what's eating you.
That's
But
why.
caffeine is isn't it a drug?
Caffeine is a drug. It is, I got to tell you, this is, to me, as a researcher and as a clinician, I am saddened by some of the misinformation coming out about coffee and caffeine. And we expose it in the book.
Oh.
In that chapter, we talk about one of the first studies, actually the first one that I know of, where they ran the headlines in the lay press saying, "Want to live longer? Drink coffee."
Oh.
That was what the lay press carried.
Wow.
You open up the chapter in here, and I tell you, I actually looked at that research study, and as I'm reading through it, it says, and I'm paraphrasing it, the more coffee people drank, the sooner they died. I said, wait a minute, wait. The press is saying you want to live longer, drink more coffee.
Yeah.
The research study says those who drank more coffee died sooner.
Wow.
They say, wait a minute, I mean, how can that be? And I start reading through the study more. They found that coffee drinking was associated with just about every bad habit. People who drank more coffee exercised less. They ate less fruits and vegetables. They were more overweight. Could just go down the list. So the researchers said, coffee is associated with all these bad habits. Let's undo the effect of all the bad habits and see what the coffee alone is doing. Now, I know it may be hard to follow the logic kind of in these bite-sized chunks, but at the end of the study, they found that coffee really helped you live longer, even though the more you drank, the sooner you died. Now, you say, Dr. DeRose, you haven't explained this very well.
Right, I'm trying to catch on.
You need to
here.
get the book. I explain it in more detail there. No, I'm not just trying to sell the book. But here's my point. In the book, we talk about one of the worst dangers of caffeine is something that actually Dr. Baldwin pointed out from the research. He said caffeine is bad habit glue. Bad habit glue. It makes your bad habits stick.
Oh, I see.
So what would we expect to see? We'd expect to see people using more caffeine and more coffee with more bad habits. That's exactly what the research shows. So to go to the research and say if you could just undo all the bad habits that keep company with coffee, you'd live longer, I say that's ridiculous. Look at the people who are actually using the more coffee. They have worse lifestyles and worse health. And that's the message we need to be communicating.
You know, recently we went to a restaurant and I said, do you have any herbal teas? He said, no, we just have black tea with caffeine. I said, do you have anything? They said, we have coffee too. I said, not everybody drinks coffee. Not everybody wants caffeine. Sorry, sir. Do you have anything else I can choose from? Anything herbal? No.
Yeah, they give free refills on coffee.
And they said, well, it's
Sad.
bottomless. And I thought, bottomless coffee. I'm going to leave out of here. More hyper. And I remember years ago when we were in Paris, we were in the Heritage Thing. You remember that?
Yeah.
The stores closed at 8 o'clock, and we were thirsty, and we, you know, the natural response would get some water, but sometimes you have this craving for something with a little fizz in it. Forgiveness is a very good key. So we decided, well, what do they have in the room, in the little refrigerator? So back then, this is
Back in the 80s.
they had a small bottle of Coca-Cola. We don't drink Coca-Cola. We don't even buy Coca-Cola. But we figured, well, you know, if we really dilute it, if we like half water, half Coca-Cola, we'd survive. 4 o'clock in the morning, we're sitting there. You okay? I'm okay. I can't fall asleep. You all right? Yeah, I'm okay. I can't fall asleep. We diluted this 8-ounce bottle of Coca-Cola, half water, and we still couldn't fall asleep.
Terrible.
And then I did one other foolish thing. This is talking about how the effect of caffeine. We were driving back from North Carolina years ago, and no-dose. Have you heard of no-dose?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I got lemon no-dose, thinking that, well, if it's lemon, it's not caffeine. Well, I was popping these no-dose just to keep me awake.
Yeah.
When I got to work at the bank in Wall Street, that's when that last no-dose finally ran its course in my system, and I literally slid down the back of the elevator wall, almost sat on the floor. I was completely out.
Wow.
I couldn't function in the office. I was almost on the floor. My supervisor said, go get some rest. I went to the bank lounge and slept for about an hour. I couldn't function. I went home and slept for 17 hours.
Wow.
Just from that. And I can imagine what happened to people that drink coffee every day. They're like all the way up here. Talk about that factor.
Well, I mean, the body does get used to drugs. I mean, whatever they are. We do develop some tolerance to caffeine. But in the research that we did on blood pressure, this is where we first started looking at this carefully. Very, very interesting study. A doctor writing to clinicians said that clinicians, doctors, people treating, nurse practitioners, physician's assistants, we need to take this relationship between caffeine and blood pressure more seriously. And he actually looked at the hundreds of thousands of people that are dying from heart attack and stroke that wouldn't if they had just avoided caffeine. He's looking on a population basis. Just drop your blood pressure a few points and it can make a big difference.
Oh, and on the news, just reading about it, they're saying that the way you eat affects your health.
No question, no question. In the book, we speak about a number of health-giving things. You're exactly right. The whole grains, the whole plant foods, the bean family. These are the powerhouses nutritionally. They're loaded with phytochemicals. These are these health-enhancing plant chemicals. The bottom line is, the more of those you eat, the better your health is going to be.
Can you inherit some of these? Well, let me put it in this statement in a question. Somebody mentioned, well, I'm predisposed to high blood pressure because of my family genes. How true is that?
Well, there's truth, and there's more truth when it comes to your early lifestyle as well. So there is genetics that affect our risk of disease, but our early life history, even in the womb, this is shocking. We wrote the book, 30 Days to Natural Blood Pressure Control. We talk about some of the research on stress in the womb. If your mother was stressed late during the pregnancy, when you were in the womb, it can predispose you to high blood pressure. People say, why? There's a critical time during development in the womb where your kidney's developing. If your mother's under profound stress, your kidney does not develop properly. By actual measurement, you can have half as many filtering units, we call them nephrons, as a normal person. If you have fewer nephrons, your body has to generate more pressure. You actually are predisposed to high blood pressure from the womb, even if your genetics were perfect, if your mother was stressed. So there's genetic factors, there's early life history factors. But here's the bottom line. Even if you get dealt that terrible hand, bad genetics, bad early life history, lifestyle still has a profound influence. You may be able to put off, let's say you're going to get high blood pressure no matter what you do.
Right.
If you live like the average American, it may come knocking on your door at 30. If you follow the principles like in the Methuselah Factor book or 30 Days to Natural Blood Pressure Control, you might have the high blood pressure at 95.
Oh, okay.
That's, I mean, it may not be that wide a gap, but you understand my point.
So how you live your life is a contributing factor.
Oh, no question, absolutely no question. We see this in our research with Native Americans. I say our research. Native Americans have collaborated with researchers over the years to allow us as a medical community to get a glimpse of diabetes. Native Americans, some of the most predisposed people to diabetes. What's really interesting is historically, the evidence is there was no diabetes on this continent before Europeans came.
Wow.
So their genes didn't change.
Okay.
But what changed? Lifestyle.
Lifestyle,
Not by their
right.
choice. They're moved on to reservations, they're given commodity foods, all these high-fat foods, and now we've got an epidemic of diabetes. We have data that goes back to 1900 from the Indian Health Service, Phoenix area. 1 case of diabetes among 4,000 people on the Gila River Indian Reservation. 1 case out of 4,000 people. Now it's about 50% of the adults over 35 that have diabetes in that population.
Wow.
So the genes haven't changed in 120 years. It's lifestyle. So lifestyle makes a profound difference.
Lifestyle.
When you think about that, that's serious, honey. We have
Yeah.
to, and as we travel and we try to be as healthy as we can be on the road.
Yeah.
But I know that somebody listening to the program might say, but what about my situation? How could they send their questions in, hon?
Well, you can email us at live@3abn.tv, or you can call us at 618-627-4651 and send your questions in. You can call, email. We want to hear, we have the doctor in the house.
That's true.
And he's ready to answer your questions.
Now, we talk about heart attacks. Why is it, now this may or may not be a part of your research, but you fit the bill. Why is heart attacks considered a silent killer, more for women than for men?
Well, I mean, here's the first reality. I mean, we've looked at this data for years, and that is many people, the very first sign of heart disease is sudden death. I mean, it may be as many as 1 in 4 people.
Wow.
That figure may be less today because we do more diagnostics, but that's a kind of common figure that we've seen over the years. About 25% of people, they have no awareness of a heart problem, and they just keel over, they drop dead, or they, you know, someone finds them laying in their bed dead.
Wow.
What's interesting about this is we've been talking about risk factors for many years. We know that high blood pressure, if you got high blood pressure, increases your risk of a heart attack. High cholesterol. If you smoke, okay? What we're now looking at in the Methuselah Factor book, when we speak about heart disease here, we show how other factors that look at blood fluidity can be as important or more important in some cases than these traditional factors. Things like fibrinogen, that's a clotting protein. Most people haven't heard of it, but it affects your blood fluidity.
How do you get that? Or is it a natural thing?
It's a blood, yeah, your body makes fibrinogen, but if your lifestyle is poor, you'll have higher fibrinogen levels. So when you go on the Methuselah Factor program for 30 days, we're helping people lower their fibrinogen, improve their blood viscosity, that measure of blood fluidity. If we measure viscosity, this was done. We've got the graphic in the book. You look at high viscosity people in a population, compare them to low viscosity people, just divide the population into quarters roughly, or, you know, fifths. 4 times as much risk of a heart event if you've got high viscosity as opposed to low.
What's that
Fibrinogen, viscosity, 2 different things, but they're both determinants of blood fluidity.
It sounds like fiber to some degree.
It does. It sounds a lot like fiber, but it's actually you have a whole host of proteins in your body that control blood clotting. They have to be in precise balance. If you have too much of the clotting factors that favor clot formation, it makes your blood more stagnant. You have poorer blood fluidity. If you have too little of these compounds, then if you bump yourself, you'll bruise or you know, end up with a, you know, bleed into your brain because, you know, someone just, you know, kind of elbowed you in the subway.
Right.
Oh, it's kind of like, what's that, hemophilia?
Yeah, so hemophiliacs have a deficiency typically of a clotting factor or more than one clotting factor.
Wow, let's see what's else.
Now, what about for dementia?
Actually, this is really interesting because what the research is suggesting is if you improve your Methuselah factor, you lower your risk of dementia. But you not only lower your risk of dementia, you improve your cognitive performance. So we spoke about viscosity.
Okay.
One of the simple things you can do to improve viscosity is just drink more water. Okay? Drink more water. Really?
Did you hear that, Alicia? Drink more water. Some people don't like water. I don't know why.
Well,
I like water, but I don't drink as much as my wife does. She always says,
Yeah, and
is that
sometimes
you?
I put lemon in it.
well, hey, get the water in. That's the important message for right now. Get that water in because if your blood fluidity is better, your mental performance improves.
right.
Actually, a graphic in the book, it shows you, this is looking at hematocrit, it's looking at the percentage of your blood made up of red blood cells, but some of the same relationships, when your hematocrit gets too high, your mental performance deteriorates.
It's funny you said that, because someone told me, Jay was telling me once, that his wife was working in a nursing home, and the lady had trouble, she just couldn't remember anything. So, you know, the Adventist lady gave her a glass of water. All of a sudden, everything started coming back.
No, it's amazing. It is amazing.
A glass of water.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I've also heard somebody say once, if you drink a small cup of water or so before you go to bed, you rest better, and it could, in some cases, prevent a heart attack while you're sleeping.
We've got this graphic in the book, too. The highest risk for heart attacks is early in the morning. And we think it's because of two reasons that impact your blood fluidity. One is you've been laying all night. So when you're not moving around, that impairs blood fluidity.
Wow.
But you're also not drinking. Now, there's a trade-off, of course. If you drink a bunch of water before you go to bed, you may be getting up more than you want.
Yeah.
But it does seem that being better hydrated in the night hours actually can decrease your risk of a heart event.
Interesting.
And even those late night meals, it depends on what you eat before you go to bed. Like, for example, you say, you know, I had a great day, I'm just gonna eat me whatever. And you could eat the wrong thing and not have, it could be digesting while you're sleeping, and I don't know, I'm just kind of...
Well, no, you're asking some great questions. If you're going to eat in the evening, you're exactly right. Eating something easier to digest is better. We're finding the research suggests that the very best thing most people can do is leave off the evening meal. You know, there's a lot of research now coming out about periodic fasting. One of the optimal times to fast is later in the day. When you do that, you boost up levels of melatonin. There's a number of reasons for this, but melatonin is a natural sleep-enhancing compound, but it also helps with blood fluidity. It has antioxidant properties. So in fact, we have a chapter in the book, and it says, basically, maximize your melatonin. And sure, you can do it with a supplement, but it's better to do it with lifestyle.
Wow, I'm learning a lot here. So
I know.
What I'm hearing you say then to some degree is, if your body is working less on trying to digest your food late at night, to the opposite is building up your melatonin supply so you can have a better night's rest, because it's not exhausting itself trying to digest this food.
I think that's a good way to try to crystallize it. So for some of my, my technical friends would say it's a little too simple, but I like simple things because we're trying to get the message across. So I like that way you've crystallized it.
I'm trying to reach the layman like me, because there's some people saying, well, how am I going to do that? You're from Chicago, I'm from New York, how does it work? And so if we don't eat so much in those late night heavy meals,
no, you got it. You got it.
Yeah.
It's a real killer, and it's also contributing to our
no pun intended.
No, you're right. It's contributing to our waistlines, because when we eat those calories late at night, what it does is those calories tend to go into storage, because our body hormonally is geared to build up from the wear and tear of the day, and those calories tend to go into storage form. Early in the day, your body is geared for productivity and performance.
Okay.
So eat that good breakfast. In the evening, if you're going to eat anything, keep it light. Fruit would be good if you're not a diabetic. If you're a diabetic, maybe keep it to a simple salad, something like that.
When's a good time to exercise? Morning, afternoon?
Yeah, when is the ideal time to exercise?
Yeah.
I mean, here's the first message. This is one message I've been trying to give people for years. That is, do something every day. Every day. So if you've gone the whole day, you've done nothing, even if you just take a 5-minute walk before you go to bed, do something. Vigorous activity late in the day for many people is too stimulating. It might be like the Coca-Cola. No, really, for some people, they do some vigorous activity. It'll keep them wired at night, and they won't be able to wind down. But do something every day. I say to people, hey, it's another day. You're going to eat, right?
Right.
Exactly.
You're going to sleep, right? It's a given. You could choose to stay up all night, couldn't you? You told the story about the no-dos, right?
Right, you can't.
Yeah, you could choose to stay up all night. You could choose to fast all day. But in general, it's a given. It's another day you're going to eat and you're going to sleep.
Right.
I say it's another day, make it a given that you're going to
Exercise.
You got it.
Wow,
Okay.
that's true.
Yeah.
Another doctor told me that. Remember, Dr. Salter, she said, you may go out and play basketball rigorously on Tuesday night and do nothing the rest of the week. She says, you are overstressing your heart because you're putting too much pressure on it for those 2 hours. and not giving it any oxygen or any exercise during the rest of the week. It's like taking your body, like waiting 7 days to run a marathon. I don't know, is there a factor there?
Well, I'll tell you, you know, if you overdo, it is a risk, and you're right. Some of the people that are at most risk of injury or serious complications are, you know, the weekend athletes, so to speak. So it is better to do something on a regular basis and then not overdo it. Competitive athletics, notorious for being the settings in which people who are out of shape do too much and then regret it.
That's right. So you have that exercise bike, we have that.
Yeah, the elliptical,
Yeah.
and I go walking every day.
Every day she
Good
goes
for you.
walking.
You got it. You're connecting the dots.
Yeah,
Have
at
you already
least
read the Methuselah Factor?
No, I need to. And there's a lot more I need to do. Now, what about garlic for blood pressure?
You know,
that good?
Well, it's interesting. We have a chapter in the book, you've got it right there, 30 Days to Natural Blood Pressure Control. Chapter 12 in the book, we look at natural adjuncts. What other things can we do beside lifestyle principles?
Okay.
And the question is about garlic.
Yes.
Angie, when we looked at the data, we found that there were a number of supplements that came up again and again that there's good research basis for.
Yeah.
One of them is magnesium.
Oh.
Another, omega-3 fats. Another, coenzyme Q10.
Oh.
L-arginine. We mentioned a number in that chapter 12. But garlic did not come up high on the list of one of the things consistently
Really?
that's a powerhouse. But having said that, as a supplement,
Okay.
having said that, garlic has natural ACE inhibitory properties. Now, this is a mouthful. But in chapter 5, where we're speaking about nutrition, we look and we show that the research is convincing. Eat more plants, eat more vegetables, eat more fruits, eat more garlic,
Yes.
and what happens? Your blood pressure will come down. The question is why? One of the reasons is in plant foods, there are these compounds, these ACE inhibitory peptides. And a lot of people say, what are you talking about? One of the common classes of blood pressure medications today are called ACE inhibitors.
Yeah, I've heard that phrase.
If anyone's listening in or viewing this program and they're taking a drug that ends in pril, okay?
Oh.
Like lisinopril or ramipril, or even some of the brand names, you know, like Acupril. These drugs that end in pril are ACE inhibitors. Now here's my point. What we've found in the medical community, I haven't done the research, but others have, they've found that there are these ACE inhibitory compounds in plant foods, including garlic, including potatoes, including broccoli. So when I'm eating these whole plant foods, like the garlic, yes, garlic has good properties, but it's not something I'm telling people, eat more garlic to lower your blood pressure. I'm not saying it couldn't do that. I'm just saying when I and Dr. Greg Steinke and Trudy Lee, nurse practitioner who co-authored the book with me, were saying we didn't find that garlic just rose to the top as far as a single supplement to take. Some of the others seem to have more convincing data.
Wow.
I like that. And one of the other things is we look at we talked about enhancing physical performance. Just before I go to the next question, let me remind our audience that if you want to send your questions in, send them to 618-627-4651, or send your questions to live@3abn.tv for the second hour. We have some graphics also we're going to introduce into the second hour of the program. But do you feel that should we introduce some of them now and you talk about it?
Sure. You know, we've been talking about both resources. Let's show a graphic of 5 videos we have that complement the book, 30 Days to Natural Blood Pressure Control. So we have 5 videos that churches and community groups have been using for the last several years since 30 Days to Natural Blood Pressure Control came out. And when we wrote the Methuselah Factor book, we were, again, trying to give people simple things they can do on a daily basis. We included the data in Figure 24 in your book there on page 279. So
wait, that's the Methuselah Factor?
We're showing a graphic here that's going to look at the 5 videos. Changing bad habits for good. It's going to show you reversing hypertension naturally. We've got these 5 videos that go together along with the blood pressure book. When churches, when communities use these videos in connection with the blood pressure book, here's what happens.
Here it is.
So now we're going to the Methuselah Factor book, because these are the same principles.
Okay.
We're showing what happens in churches when they put this program into place. The average person lowers their blood pressure 17 points. in the course of 30 days. Some churches spread it out, make it an 8-week program.
Okay.
But this is actually showing actual data from community groups who use the videos with the blood pressure book. And basically, what's exciting to me is you don't have to go to an expensive lifestyle program. Those are great.
Good point.
Those are, no, they're great, and I
Right.
believe in them.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be working with another one this summer. I've worked with many over the years. I'm a believer in these, but that's not the first step. Try to do things at home on your own. Just 2 people getting the Methuselah Factor book, going through it together. We've got free online videos on my website, compasshealth.net. People go to my website, free video every day. Goes along with each day's program in the Methuselah Factor book. You can do a lifestyle program with your best friend who lives in England maybe, okay?
Yeah.
How can you do it together? You can't, you're not in the physical place. You're reading the book together, not necessarily over the phone or something,
Right.
or on Skype, but then you're watching the videos and you're comparing notes, maybe once a week. What did you do this week? So here's the point, John. The videos, the books, the free materials, the inexpensive DVDs that are being used by church groups, we're trying to put into people's hands resources so they can continue the healing ministry of Jesus in their own home, in their communities, in their churches.
Wow.
That's powerful.
I know, when you think about it, health has been one of the most elusive, resistant areas that people have thought about until they get to the point where they say, Doc, I'm willing to do anything. Why is that?
I mean, it's tragic. It's tragic
is.
because I've seen so many patients over the years where it is literally too late. I mean, when the woman comes in with her legs amputated from her diabetes,
Yep.
Right.
I can't make her legs grow back, okay?
Wow.
We can get her blood sugar under control, but it's too late.
Right.
And the irony is that woman with the amputated legs, 5 years ago, she said, I hate to walk. I'm not going to exercise. DeRose is talking about, I mean, it's not my patient.
Sure. Right.
But I mean, I'm telling you about a patient I did see who had both legs cut off. She wasn't my patient before she had the amputations, but I'm saying now that she's my patient, I can't get the legs back. But 5 or 10 years before, she didn't want to exercise. Now, when it comes to walking, what would she say? She'd say, I'd do anything to walk again.
That's right.
Right.
I mean, isn't it crazy?
Yeah.
Why do we only value our health after we lose it?
I
Oh,
know.
wow, that's a powerful thing. And then these practices that are continually repeated to break the body down gradually, if they were stopped, then the body has this natural property to start building itself back up.
It's true, but I mean, I think of another patient. First time I met him, he's in a wheelchair. He's paralyzed on half his body, can hardly talk. I find out he's been like that for 20 years. He's not that old. And I'm thinking, this was a guy who wasn't serious about his blood pressure when he was in his 40s. Some of these things take a gradual toll, but when you have a stroke, it's not gradual.
No.
That's right, it's an impact.
Yeah, and if you don't come back from that stroke, you might get your blood pressure perfectly controlled for the rest of your life, but you're still in the wheelchair.
He's still
Wow,
paralyzed.
so we're learning that this is really a serious issue, huh?
Yeah, it is.
This one, 30 Days to Natural Blood Pressure Control, available on Amazon and Kindle.
That's right, and we've got it on our website too. In fact, because we're talking about both books, we'll give people some special deals if they want to get both and go through us.
We need to add this to our added reading, because we study our Bibles together, we read our devotional together, but it's good to add something in it that would give us an edge on health.
Yes.
Because you know what, honey? We're not getting any younger.
Unfortunately.
And anybody watching this program, I guarantee you're not getting any younger. So if there's a time, and also the Methuselah Factor, we're going to talk about some more of this in the second hour, because what you mentioned is the 30 Days to Natural Blood Pressure Control. The Methuselah Factor contains the 30-day march.
Yeah, they really complement each other.
Okay. With the research, the charts, because a lot of times we do programs and we get excited, we get stimulated, we say, you know what, today's a good day to start something new. But one of the challenges we have to break through is things we've done over and over and over and over and over and over.
Break that cycle.
And that's what's difficult to break. But is it impossible to break?
Definitely not. And here's what I would challenge you, John and Angie.
Yeah.
30 days. We'll make sure you go, you leave with free copies of the book, okay?
Oh, wow.
And do it for 30 days, do the program.
I want to do it.
And then, and see what difference it makes.
Okay, should we hold each other to this promise?
Deal.
You're watching this contract being sealed. This is a contract.
Okay,
I'm going to
honey.
hold her to it. She's going to hold me to it.
Thank you.
Because I'm learning something as I get older. You know, being slim is not effective. I'm getting a little bit of excess, you know, baggage here. And we're going to talk about how to get rid of that excess baggage and still enjoy life. And so in the second hour of the program, we're going to show you some graphics. Dr. DeRose has been tremendous. Questions, comments, send those to the email address. But don't go away. We'll be back in about 2 minutes with some additional information on how to be a healthy person.
Amen.
Welcome back to the second hour of the Methuselah Factor. If you didn't join us in the first hour, we're just going to briefly recap. We talked about, oh, honey, this is a program.
Okay.
Before the first hour ended, we shook on the 30-day program for the Methuselah Factor.
You got one each.
And so we are going to get into this Methuselah Factor, and in a nutshell, revolutionizing your health.
Yes.
Because you are doing some things good. I heard that somebody once said the enemy of best is good. So you may be in good health, but why not be in better health or best health? And so we're going to talk about the Methuselah Factor the second hour. Learn how to live sharper, leaner, longer, and better lives, and you can turn your life around in 30 days.
And you'll have a sharper focus.
Oh, man, my wife is advertising our Wednesday night Bible study, A Sharper Focus.
Yeah.
It'll be sharper after we follow this program.
This is great.
And I'm really excited about it.
I'm looking forward to this, Doctor.
You know, Doctor, you've given me three words I've never heard before. Hemorrhagic.
The Methuselah Factor.
The Methuselah Factor. And
Fibrinogen.
Fibrinogen is one more one.
Viscosity, is that a new one?
Well, viscosity, I know about
You
that
know
because
that, yeah.
motor oil.
Right, right.
You know, viscosity, I know about the motor oil viscosity. Blood fluidity. Is your blood flowing? You might say yes, but then the question is, how fast? Is it moving slowly? Your organs are relying on it. And I'm going to ask you this before we go to the second song. What about people that are sometimes, could their blood fluidity contribute to them being tired too much?
Absolutely no question. No, if you want to improve physical and mental performance, you got to be serious about your blood fluidity.
My wife just elbowed me.
Yeah. And like I'm saying, it's simple. 30-day program. We're not selling any supplements, anything like that. It's basically a lifestyle-based program. If you got the book in your hands, The Methuselah Factor, you can do it. Some churches, some community groups, not even church groups. I've got a community group in the Native American community right now that is using the Longevity Plus video that complements the Methuselah Factor book. So they'll be showing those video segments and going through the book together and really improving their health in 30 days.
How many segments are on this video?
Actually, we divide, it's about 2 hours of material divided into 3 different segments. So over the course of 4 weeks, you'll show 3 different portions of those videos.
Okay, and this graphic is showing us about that.
Changing bad habits.
That's exactly right. So some groups also like the Changing Bad Habits for Good video because that complements it nicely too. Others will do a cooking class or something with their community. So that one's optional. But if you've got the book, that's all you need. But if you like some video material that you want to show in a group, we have the DVDs. And then we have the free videos that are online on the compasshealth.net website. Now, how would you remember that? Compasshealth.net.
Oh, compass, changing direction.
Yeah, right. So Compass gives you direction. We're giving people direction to what, Angie? To health.
Health.
So it's
better
Compass Health. Why is it .net?
Oh, because it's catchy.
Web.
Oh, it's catchy. You got it. I like that one. You got
I like
it.
that. I just made up I made that up. It
That
does
was
fit.
good. You're good. Compasshealth.net.
Changing direction. And sometimes the word change, some people think of the word change as a bad thing.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, you know, we get comfortable with what we're used to doing,
Yeah.
even if it's destructive.
Wow.
And so here's the deal. If you're going to wait till you're 50 and have the heart attack and be a cardiac cripple, that's what happens to some people. They can't walk across the room because they have so little heart function. Or you're going to wait till you have the stroke. You're going to wait till you have the amputation or the blindness from the diabetes. You could wait then. But it's better to change the lifestyle before you have all the complications. So here's the point. The video, Changing Bad Habits for Good, is probably my all-time best-selling video. Now, part of it, it's been the video I've had out there the longest.
Okay.
But the point is, we tell people that there's good news about habit change. And the good news is this: we can develop new enjoyments.
Okay.
So, yes, I grew up going to the fast food restaurants. I grew up eating lots of sweets before I went to bed. I changed my lifestyle. I'm not craving that stuff anymore because I've developed new enjoyments. You try to give me some of that stuff I used to like as a young adult, and it would make me sick.
I like that. New enjoyments. Did you hear that? Not, oh man, it doesn't taste well. A lot of people think, and you know that, people say if it's healthy, it doesn't taste good.
Right.
That's not true.
It's not true.
Okay.
Because you develop new enjoyments.
Okay, I like that. That's a good psychological word. But it's true also because old enjoyments are critical to the function of the body operating correctly. They're critical. In other words, they end up making you critical. I'm trying to fit that in right there. You end up in critical care. But you don't need to end up in critical care if you just start now.
That's right.
Is there ever a point where, I think you talked about that, if somebody is experiencing now, watching the program, listening to it, is this a good time to make that change?
There's never a better time than today. There never is. And even if you feel like your best days are behind you, I always remind people when I'm wearing my pastoral hat that Moses was called to lead the children of Israel when he was 80. Read Psalm 90. Moses wrote it. He thought the lifespan in his day was 70 or 80 years. He was at the end of his life as far as most people would have slated it. But God still had a plan for him. This is the message. It's never too late. Get serious today. You guys are embarking on the Methuselah Factor journey, 30 days. I want to get a report from you. I want to hear what happens.
I love the challenge.
You got to pick the date, honey, because you know me.
After
we
we
like
go to
challenges.
St. Martin, we'll do it.
After we come back from vacation, after we get rid of our delightful old good old bad habits, we're going to get some good, enjoyable new habits.
Yeah, we
A
don't have a
vacation.
lot of bad habits.
We don't.
Though.
We don't
No.
do crazy stuff.
No, we love salads. Absolutely.
Oh,
love
my
them.
wife, salads. We have salads
Okay.
at all of our meals.
Good deal.
Well, we're going to have some music. A good friend of mine, Sam Acampo, and he has been connected to his piano, I think, from the first day he was born. You could notice that he loves to play that instrument because it's an extension of the way he feels and his ministry to us. Sit back and be blessed by the song, Thank You, Lord.
it's beautiful.
I refer to Sam Okonkwo as the Jamie George of piano. Because you could see he's expressive, he believes and experiences and feels what he's playing.
Beautiful.
And thank you so much for that song. And it's a great segue because we could really thank the Lord for these bodies he gave to us.
Yes.
If somebody gave you a $20 million machine that can think, see, hear, walk, can learn, can do all the things that you do, how would you treat it? Well, that's just a small snapshot of what we have. I am a prototype. There's no second John Lomacang. This is it. I have one body. And if you had a $10 million horse that you race, would you give him Coca-Cola and donuts the night before, keep him up late and just say, you got to win tomorrow? We do that to ourselves. And that's why Dr. DeRose is here to help us understand the Methuselah Factor. Now, we don't think we're going to live 969 years in this life, but what we can learn is that what you do to your body will determine how well you will experience the future. And honey, we know medication. We went to Australia. Tell the listeners, our audience, what the guy at customs asked us when we went to Australia.
He asked if we have any medications. We said no. He says all Americans have medications. We said, well, we don't have any. He said, are you sure? I said, yeah.
He said, all Americans have medication to declare. We said, we don't. He says, are you sure? It was an eye-opener to us. He said, because all Americans have medications to declare.
Not this American.
Dr. DeRose, what's happening?
Well, it's actually tragic, really, and we're smiling about it, but it's tragic because we have been in a position for years, the information's been out there, to really take charge of our own health.
That's right.
But so many of us get our backs against the wall where there may not be any other option that your doctor sees than giving you a pill. Now, I'm not saying that's necessarily optimal, but sometimes that's the best that's known. And my whole point is we could avoid ever going down that path if we just paid attention to things like the Methuselah Factor, optimal blood fluidity. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get that message out there. We're trying to make it simple. We're trying to put resources into people's hands, whether it's the free videos, whether it's the inexpensive books on Amazon. And just for the record, someone ran to me during the break, and I said, because I guess people are already calling in through our Compass Health, and I'm saying, give them a special deal if they want both the blood pressure book and the Methuselah Factor, and they go through our website or call our toll-free number. We'll do that.
Oh, good.
That's wonderful.
That's good.
Well, we have some questions for you. Okay.
Someone has a question. What causes bloating?
Bloating.
She's a vegetarian.
Yeah, there's a lot of causes of gas and bloating. One of the ones that is surprising to people is something called aerophagia. That's where people...
Another new term.
Yeah, okay, another new term. So it's actually where we're swallowing air. So one of the things that can cause gas and bloating is swallowing air. And this is common in people that are rushing, they're talking maybe while they're eating, and they're swallowing air along with their food. This can contribute to bloating. Other times there are certain foods that a person's intolerant of. So there's a number of strategies, slowing down the speed of eating, chewing your food thoroughly, and sometimes we'll say keep a food diary. If you say, every time, wow, when I eat the raw broccoli, I get gas and bloating, those cruciferous vegetables for some people, if they're not cooked, that can be a food group that can give them more gas. Same with the beans. In the chapter on beans and the Methuselah Factor, we share 3 principles how to make beans less gas-forming. So,
really?
Yeah, individualized things, but those are 3 of the big ones.
So fuel doesn't mean you have to have gas.
No, that's exactly right.
Okay. I was smiling when you mentioned that because I like to talk. And
what about chewing gum?
Chewing gum's an interesting one. I'll put it this way. In the grand scheme of things, we're talking about so many big, important issues. I will kind of leave that off in the back burner. If you find it's causing you problems, just be careful because there is something in gum. A lot of these artificial sweeteners, like the sorbitol or sugar alcohols, for some people, they do cause intestinal issues. So the gum is on that list as one of those things.
You hit a nail on the head because this ice gum, it's really ice. a lot of mint in it. And I remember chewing one of those when we were on the airplane. And man, I had this horrible feeling of indigestion, like almost like a acid reflux. It was so strong.
Well, the mint is another problem because mint actually lowers the tone in the ring. We call it, it's a ring of muscle where your swallowing tube, your esophagus goes into the stomach. It's called the lower esophageal sphincter. It's a band of muscle.
Yeah.
If you take mint, it relaxes that sphincter, and it's like a purse string. It relaxes it, and the acid can come up into your esophagus and cause heartburn.
I knew it.
Yeah, so people that have heartburn, we say, watch out for the mint. Some people are so sensitive, even the mint in toothpaste. Even the mint in toothpaste can be a problem. So be careful of those after-dinner mints at the restaurant.
Yeah.
Although they relax smooth muscle in the gut, they also relax that lower esophageal sphincter.
Not at night, honey.
Not at night, because I remember doing
struggle
that.
with that sometimes.
That's a problem.
Okay, now I got an. If for no other reason, I'm going to sleep better tonight because I'm not going to drink mint tea.
Good.
What about raspberry?
Raspberry tea, most people tolerate pretty well.
Okay.
We do ginger and lemon, fresh ginger.
Ginger does have some helpful gastrointestinal properties for many people. So
Yeah.
I have noticed a major difference in my health and my even my singing ability since my wife has been giving me a lot of ginger.
okay.
Yeah, fresh ginger and lemon. Okay, here's another question. Cyrus in New York. In a simple way and referencing your book, The Methuselah Factor, how would you take care of your body, beginning, middle, and end? Does water help your blood run more freely?
Okay, so talking about the Methuselah Factor book, I mean, we try to make it as simple as we could, but it's a 30-day program.
Yeah.
And the water is a critical element because if you want to have optimal blood fluidity, you got to drink the water.
Yes.
In the blood pressure book, in the Methuselah Factor book, we share data with why hydration is so important. Let's make it simple, just like we're doing here.
Right.
If you don't get enough water, one of the things your body has to do is clamp down on your blood vessels to maintain your blood pressure. When you do that, it increases the resistance in your blood vessels. Okay? So there's a lot of connections with this, but drink the optimal water. In the books, we talk about a great study that was done by Dr. Jacqueline Chan and her colleagues at Loma Linda University, and they found you don't have to drink huge amounts of water to get big benefits for your heart. You can decrease your risk of dying from a heart attack about 50% by just drinking more than 5 glasses of water per day compared to drinking less than 2. So you don't have to drink huge amounts, okay?
Okay.
Wow. That's about the 5th time my wife elbowed me tonight.
Really?
She always tells me,
Keep going like this.
she always tells me drink more water. And she says, when I see her drinking it, it looks good. So I drink it when I see her drinking it, but I have to learn how to drink water without her around.
Thank you.
Because she comes on and says, honey, would you like a glass of water? She said, I already drank a gallon.
Yeah,
How
a
many did you
gallon.
drink today? She always catches me, oh, that was my first glass. But okay, I'm learning.
Okay, Ramona in Texas, she says she's having cortisone injections in her lower back and knee, and one knee. She's trying to delay joint replacement. How can you help? What can she do?
Great story. We've got it in the Methuselah Factor
is it
book.
there?
Oh,
Okay.
it is a great story. Dr. Edgar V. Meister, he shared this story on our radio show some years ago. It was a patient of his who had hip problems, severe hip arthritis. He was getting ready for the hip replacement, okay? He's on the table getting ready for surgery. He ends up having a heart attack.
Oh, no.
So he doesn't end up with the hip surgery. He ends up in the coronary care unit. He's recovering from the heart attack. He gets serious about his heart and starts investing in a healthy lifestyle. There's a lot out there now about how the kind of diet we talk about in the Methuselah Factor book and the 30 Days to Natural Blood Pressure book, how this diet can help reverse heart disease. He gets on this kind of a program. He's eating the plant foods, he's exercising, controlling his stress, the whole deal. 6 months later, he's back in with the orthopedist. The orthopedist says, I think we can do the hip replacement now. And he says, but my hip isn't bothering me so much.
Oh.
When Dr. V. Meister did the x-rays, he saw that the cartilage was regenerating.
What?
Yeah. Here's the point. What we're finding when people adopt the Methuselah Factor program, we're not saying it's a panacea. We're not saying everyone who's scheduled for joint replacement won't need it. but we're seeing evidence of healing to the musculoskeletal system. So we say, before you get in line for that joint replacement, see if you can trim down on the weight, go through a Methuselah Factor program for 30 days, at least try it. If you've got any questions, of course, check with your doctor. You know, if you got worries, it's too extreme. But do that for 30 days, see what difference it makes.
Oh.
That's amazing.
Ooh. Okay, that's good to know. Gwen from Alabama, can you share the pros and cons of CBD products? Do you expound on this? What is CBD?
Okay, so the CBDs, you know, we're talking about classes of compounds that are in marijuana.
Oh.
And I just mentioned earlier, I was at Prevention 2019 presenting there. This was a big gathering of preventive medicine specialists. And one of the topics there was about marijuana. So, and we talk about marijuana in both our books, and here's why we talk about it. A lot of people, when there's not much known about something and it's, quote, natural, think it is the new great panacea. So many people today think marijuana is this, you know, godsend to every problem. What we're finding now, I'm not going to look at isolated compounds like the CBD. Let's talk about marijuana in general. What we're finding, marijuana users have a number of mental health effects. It is not in the long term helping their mental health or their stress in a lot of the research. It increases your risk of cognitive problems, can increase your risk of psychosis, it decreases your motivation. So we spell this out in our books. Here's my simple point. My simple point is you're best off getting on a comprehensive lifestyle program and not gravitating to the latest, greatest, newest, quote, natural compound. Many of us very concerned about marijuana. We talk in the Methuselah Factor book about some of the very scary research coming out about the blood vessels in marijuana. Marijuana smoking seems to be worse on the blood vessels than tobacco smoking in some of the emerging data. So again, that's not the CBDs in particular, but my whole point is I'm not saying there's nothing good in marijuana, but what I'm saying is it's a lot of hype out there and a lot of people trying to make money off things that aren't well documented. I would say stick with the things that are well documented. Our program, very simple, very inexpensive, simple investment in the book, and I say do it with someone else. And so what we're doing, as I've mentioned, people buy a couple of the books or they buy 2 of the Methuselah Factors, say I'm going to go through it with my sister. We'll give them a special pricing if they go through compasshealth.net or call our toll-free number.
Yeah, what is that? We had a toll-free number just a moment there. I'd like to get that number so we could let our audience know where they can actually tune in to get that material, and when we get a chance, just give that to us.
There it is.
Okay, the number is on your screen. If you're driving, it is 1-844-632-2867.
This is to get the special deal.
Yeah, there's so we've got the special deal. If people buy, you know, 2 of the books, we'll give special pricing. But here's the thing: it's easy to remember. If someone's driving, it's 1844. That's an important date, you know, to people who are looking forward to Christ's soon return. 1-844, then M for Methuselah Factor. 1-844. M Factor. Okay, 1844 M Factor. If you can remember that, you got the toll-free number.
It's easy to remember. It's not on the website, so remember that. Okay, Eula, she says, do they have an reflective journal or field test on obesity?
Well, we've done some interesting things. So there's a lot of research that's been done on obesity, of course. One of the studies that we present in the Methuselah Factor book, and I'll just actually turn to it because we have a chapter on this. If you look there in the book, go down to page 63. It's chapter 10. Remember, those who are just joining us, part 1, why the Methuselah Factor is important, why Chemo Rheology is important, why blood fluidity can help you. Chapter 10, improve your Methuselah Factor, get help for shedding excess pounds. Turn there to page 63. We don't have this graphic that we can show on air, and that's probably just as good because I know some people are listening by way of 3ABN radio. So, but if you turn there to page 65, you see a graphic. Dr. Duncan and colleagues, they looked at your risk of gaining weight over time. And what they found is when you measure these things, John has become fascinated with fibrinogen. Okay, it's a
Oh,
clotting
yeah.
factor.
Sure it is.
If your fibrinogen's worse, you're more likely to gain weight over time. If your factor 8, that's another clotting factor, is worse, more likely to gain weight. All these things worsen blood fluidity. Here's the message. So what I'm just saying is there's research documenting this. If you want to decrease your risk of gaining weight over time, or if you want to lose weight, you want to improve your blood fluidity. And people say, well, why would that make a difference? It's because your metabolism works better if every cell in your body is getting the proper oxygenation. You're using what we call aerobic metabolism instead of anaerobic. The aerobic burns more calories. There's a number of reasons for it, but the bottom line, improve your blood fluidity, and it will help you as far as trimming your weight.
Wow.
Ooh,
Okay, I like
looking
that.
forward to that. Oh, this one is about high blood pressure. What should a normal blood pressure reading be for a 69-year-old person?
Okay, now this is an interesting topic. So in our 30 Days to Natural Blood Pressure Control book, we've got 2 graphics early in the book. The first graphic shows data that's been out there for many years, and what it shows is getting your blood pressure down below 110 systolic naturally is optimal. So if you look at the general population, the lower the blood pressure, the better. I mean, within health range. I mean, there's people in an intensive care unit right now with a blood pressure of 70. They're in shock, okay? That's not good. But naturally, get it down below 110. Now, here's what's really interesting. If you take drugs to get it down to 110, in many of the studies, you actually increase your risk of problems. So what you do naturally is different than what we do with medication. That's where the big controversy is today. I was just reading another article this week in one of the medical journals. How low to get the blood pressure with medications. And some groups in the population, if they give you more drugs and get your blood pressure below 130 systolic, your complications go up. You have more heart problems rather than less. You have a greater risk of stroke. So here's what we're telling people. We're saying, don't be complacent with your blood pressure. Get it as low as possible, as naturally as possible. Use these natural strategies. Get on a healthier lifestyle. Eat better. If you need to use a simple supplement, that's okay, but don't fall into the trap of not checking your blood pressure, not listening to the doctor. Get those numbers down, but don't get them down too low. Don't overtreat the blood pressure.
Okay.
Oh, I like that. So a natural way of approaching it is better than just saying, I'm going to lower with all these drugs, because you're messing with the natural body's function.
Yeah, now here's the deal. Here's the deal, John. We know, I mean, if someone's walking around with a blood pressure of 200 over 120, I mean, you got to get your blood pressure down. And initially, you may need to take a medication. I never tell anyone, just read our books and then stop your drugs. If you're on medications, you've got to work with your doctor to get you off. But doctors today are helping people get off their medications.
Okay. Now let's see what's the next one.
Wow, we have a lot of questions. This is about high cholesterol.
Okay.
Caller has high cholesterol. She's vegan. She drinks lots of water. She wants to try to lower her cholesterol without meds.
Okay. One of the powerful foods for cholesterol lowering, like I said, we've got a whole chapter on it, are beans. Eat more beans. Eat beans with breakfast. Eat beans with every meal. Beans have natural blood sugar stabilizing, natural cholesterol lowering properties. That's definitely one thing on the list. Another natural compound that lowers cholesterol is something called beta-sitosterol. Beta-sitosterol is a plant compound that has cholesterol lowering properties. So that's another one that we put on that list, beta-sitosterol. So there are simple things that people can do that are natural. Also, watch out for the sweets. Even if you're a total vegetarian, some of these higher carbohydrate diets, you may need to be more liberal with the good fats, with the nuts, the seeds, and the beans. Like I said, those foods. See if that can't make a difference as far as the cholesterol.
Wow, because some people are vegans, but they have a dessert factor that has no meat in it, but it's really putting all that weight on.
No, you're exactly right. And those sugars, they raise the triglycerides, they adversely affect the blood fluidity, and they actually can really work against you.
Let me ask one more question, because this kind of fits along the way. I've heard that people that are vegans sometimes, or vegetarians, sometimes they say they have a lot of pastas in their diet. Does that add to starches and sugars? How does that factor into that? No pun intended there.
Yeah. Let me tell you the thing I'm most worried about. The thing I'm most worried about is the refined grains, okay? So you can eat white pasta, and that's okay with a vegan diet, but this is not a nutrient-dense food. Now, this is saying a lot because 3 of my grandparents were born in Italy. But I had to get to the point, I grew up eating the white pasta,
Right.
and I said, I've got to, if I'm going to eat pasta, I got to use the whole grain. And I got to get the foods the way the Creator gave them to us. Because when I read my Bible, they're in Genesis 1.
Right.
Yeah.
The original diet was those whole plant foods.
That's
We
right.
start refining this stuff, and we find problems. So that's what I recommend. If you're going to eat the grains, eat the whole grains. Some people say, I'm off all grains, Dr. DeRose. But the research suggests that grains actually are part of a healthy diet for most people. Yeah, if you have a gluten intolerance, I mean, if you got celiac disease, sure, you got to leave off the rye, you got to leave off the wheat, you got to leave off the barley. But for the most of us, whole grains are an important part of the diet.
Okay.
Okay.
Man,
Whew,
really,
this is so good.
okay.
I have so many questions. They says, what does Dr. DeRose think about the books and science behind grain brain and wheat belly? What are they saying? Grains are a problem?
Yeah, well, look at Drouillard. This is another researcher and author. He wrote a book called Eat Wheat. And so here's the deal, okay? Here's the deal. If you have a serious intolerance to wheat, it's a problem. But here's the bigger problem. In our culture, most people, when they go on a, quote, gluten-free diet, when they stop eating wheat, what do they avoid? Well, they leave off the donuts. They leave off the cakes. They get away from a lot of bad foods that were hurting. It wasn't the gluten. I mean, unless they had an issue with the gluten. So there are people like that. But many people on these gluten-free diets make progress, not because the problem with the gluten, but the problem was with what? It was with all the things that were keeping company with those grain products.
Okay.
Okay?
I see.
So it was like a whole wheat donut.
Yeah, not a winner.
Okay, another question. What are the available treatments or any new treatments for fibromyalgia?
Fibromyalgia, yeah.
Yeah, so fibromyalgia, I mean, it's been a problem for years. I mean, a number of people have responded to this in different ways. So we've seen people come to our various lifestyle centers and get progress. Some people have used things like magnesium malate, which is a natural supplement. Some people have worked with programs that have tried to address thyroid health issues. It's a fairly complicated approach, but here's the way to make it simple. And I know this may sound like a panacea program. It's not, but I tell people, now, we've got the Methuselah Factor book out. It just came out this year, 2019. And I say, here's the deal. Try the 30-day program. Whether you got fibromyalgia, whether you've got autoimmune condition, whether you have obesity issues, try the program for 30 days. If you have questions about whether it's safe for you, work with your doctor to begin with.
Okay.
And my folks, they're sending a note through to us saying, you know, if they want the special, where we're giving them, if they buy 2 of the books, any 2 of the books, we give them a special price, they've got to call the 800 number. They can't just go to Amazon or our website.
Right.
They've got to
Very
call
good
that
point.
toll-free number.
Okay, which is on the
Yeah,
Which is
so
on the
that's,
screen right
yeah,
there.
that's the 1-844 and then M factor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, I like
or
that one.
632-2867.
You got it.
Another one, Francis, I have a problem with anxiety, and my doctor prescribed Xanax.
Okay.
I take it and I feel well, but if I don't feel well. Do you have any suggestions to what, so that I don't have to take it anymore?
Okay, so anxiety is a huge problem.
Yeah.
And Xanax is in a category called benzodiazepines. So maybe people haven't heard of Xanax. They may have heard of Valium. They may have heard of Librium. So these are all in the same family. These drugs, although they work for anxiety, they tend to be habit-forming and addictive. So we get very worried about their long-term use, and especially when people end up on these and then maybe on pain medications, really bad combination. So here's the deal. In the medication world today, the antidepressants, if you're taking medication, probably as good, if not better, for many people than the, what we call anxiolytics, the anxiety pills like the Xanax. But I say, why not address it with lifestyle? And we've been talking about some of the things that feed into stress. In both of our books, the Methuselah Factor and the blood pressure book, we talk about stress management. We have a whole chapter in the blood pressure book on how to deal with stress naturally. And every 7th day, like we talked about, as we go through the Methuselah Factor book, on that day for resting and refreshing, we're giving strategies that can help with stress. It's forgiveness, it's humility, it's gratitude. Now, I gave this teaser earlier about the Botox injections.
Oh, yeah.
If you get Botox injections on your crow's feet, okay, these are your smile muscles. Anything that decreases your smiling increases your risk of depression.
Oh.
Wow.
So they've actually measured this. If you smile, this is all in the Methuselah Factor book, if you're wondering. If you smile when you're doing a stressful task, it lowers your stress hormone levels. So smiling, gratitude, joy, a merry heart.
Do it good like a medicine.
I mean, the Bible is cutting edge science. I mean, it's crazy. The research is there. So what I tell our friends with anxiety, take a comprehensive program, whether you start with the Methuselah Factor book, whether you use something like my friend Dr. Nedley, he's got a lot of great stuff out there for anxiety and depression. There's stuff out there that's natural, but you can't just stop those Xanax and Valiums abruptly. Work with the doctor, get on a natural program.
There's a song years ago, I mean, there's this program that said, whistle while you work.
Okay.
So from now on, I'm going to smile when I vacuum.
There you go. You got it.
You're going to smile when you
attitude
vacuum.
towards
It's
cleaning.
true. You can ask this one, honey.
Okay. Is juicing carrots good for diabetics? If not, what would be good for juicing, a juicing regimen for diabetics? I am diabetic with an A1C 7.4.
Okay, so the A1C is kind of your average level of blood sugar control. Many people would consider 7.4, you know, in a relatively good range. Some people try to get it below that. But here's the deal. Carrots have a lot of carbohydrate, and they can raise blood sugar. If someone's diabetes is very well controlled, that may not be a big issue, but for most people, I say, check your blood sugar before the carrot juice and then 2 hours after. If it's going up more than 40 to 60 points, that's ramping up your sugar more than you want to do it.
Really?
When it comes to juicing, we actually mention a juicing regimen in the Methuselah Factor book, okay? We speak about a special approach to increasing your intake of vegetables. People can do it with juicing. We talk about the leaf, stem, and flower fast in the book. The leaf, stem, and flower fast. And you can read about it there, but in a nutshell, on a specific day, if you're doing a fast, a vegetable fast for a day, you can eat all the cauliflower, broccoli, cabbage, kale, collards, anything that's a leaf, a stem, or a flower vegetable. You can cook them, you can juice them, okay? But when you start using the root vegetables, like the beets and the carrots and the potatoes, you can ramp up those blood sugars, though that would not be included on that special fast. So that's a very good fast. Leaf, stem, and flower fast. It's a great fast. We used it in our lifestyle centers for people with diabetes. Great type of fast. You get a lot of electrolytes and things, and gives you a protection that you don't have with a water-only fast. Some people can get into serious trouble if they're taking medications and they go on a water-only fast. But if you got diabetes and you go on a fast like that, you got to work with the doctor, because insulin, some of those medicines, you'll get into trouble because they don't have much sugar in those vegetables.
Okay. So the root, the other one is the root what?
So leaf, stem, and flower are the ones you do on the special fast. Then you've also got, some people call them fruit vegetables. I mean, it may sound like a contradiction, but any of those vegetables like the cucumbers, the tomatoes that have the seeds in them, they're botanically a fruit, even though we classify them as a vegetable. So we leave those off of the fast. We leave the root vegetables off of the fast. Okay?
Oh, okay.
Gotcha. All right.
Good, good. This one says, I have a problem with tremors and a leaky gut. Is there information in your Methuselah book that will help me? I've been told that the tremors may have something to do with my brain.
Okay, so of course a tremor is an uncontrolled shaking.
Yeah.
The two most common tremors that we see, one is the tremor that goes along with Parkinson's disease.
Oh, yes.
And we do talk about neurodegenerative diseases like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's in our resources. So we also have a video out called The Brain Health Revolution. We talk about it. One of the things that the research is showing is higher than optimal iron levels can increase the risk of both Parkinson's and dementia. One of the things that I presented at the Prevention 2019 conference last week was the value of donating blood.
Really?
Donating blood. We used to think of it as just something that helps other people.
Right.
I mean, we could think from a Christian standpoint.
Yeah.
Jesus gave all his blood for
That's
us,
true.
right?
Right.
But when we share our blood with other people, the research is suggesting we help our own health.
Really?
Really interesting stuff. So we talk about it in the book, and we're finding, the research I presented, we find when people connect with the principles in the Methuselah Factor book, it increases their likelihood of donating blood. It's really important today. It's a big public health issue. A lot of our best donors are over 50. They're dropping out of the donor pool as they get sick, as they, as they die. And so how are we going to fill those ranks? If we get this message out about the Methuselah Factor, what we've found in some of the little research we've done, people learn about these concepts, they donate blood. It can help with tremors from Parkinson's disease. The other common cause of tremor is called benign essential tremor. And caffeine makes it worse. Lack of sleep makes it worse. So the principles in the Methuselah Factor book are going to help some of the underlying causes of the two main causes of tremor. I say again, it's worth a 30-day trial.
Wow, Methuselah Factor. Okay, I have a question. It says, I have asthma, high cholesterol, joint and stomach problems, and many other problems. Can you give me any advice on what to do to get my health better?
Okay. One thing, at a minimum, when you've got that list of problems, is consider a total plant-based diet for a period of time. And in the Methuselah Factor program, we don't say people have to go on a total vegetarian diet. That is the optimal diet. You could do that during the 30-day program. But I'll be honest with you, a lot of people are not ready to do that because we're speaking to the whole world.
Yeah.
Okay? But the more fruits and vegetables and whole grains people eat tends to help with breathing, tends to help with inflammation in the body. And if, like I said, if a person go on that total plant-based diet, the other thing I have to mention are the dairy products. Many people find that when they have allergic related conditions or where allergy is a component, commonly with asthma, that's the case. If you leave off the dairy products for a month, see what happens. Some people it makes a huge difference. I'll be honest, some people it makes no difference with their allergies and asthma. But some people it's huge, it's a game changer. So try it for a month. Read labels. No casein, that's milk protein. No whey, that's a milk product. No cheese. Do it for 1 month. Do it while you're on the Methuselah Factor program, and I would be surprised if that person doesn't make progress.
Oh.
You know, that's a very good point because allergies used to bother me many years ago. Sound like I'm old. Many years ago.
Okay.
And I stopped dairy altogether. And people that are out here living in this environment where we, 3ABN, we're in the tree, we're in the tree factors. I don't have any allergies.
Tremendous.
I can go and cut my grass on any given day. The only time it gets me is when it's toward the end of the season.
California, you had it.
In California, we live downwind, and I tell you.
In Fairfield, you had it
But
bad.
I used to do more dairy then.
Yeah, but you had to get shots too.
I had to get a shot every year, but here,
Good deal, good deal.
praise the Lord for that.
Now this one, Jahan from Oregon, is there anything that my daughter can do to help her hemochromatosis?
Yeah, hemochromatosis. So hemochromatosis is a condition where iron builds up in the body. And this is an extreme condition which really undermines your blood fluidity. The iron also builds up in the organs of the body. The natural treatment for hemochromatosis is removing blood. Now, historically in America, once someone was diagnosed with hemochromatosis, they wouldn't take their blood as a blood donor, but would actually make them pay to to take their blood from them as a treatment. So I was telling this to a physician from out of the country last week when I was at Prevention 2019 at this conference, and she said, well, in our country, we will take the blood from someone that has hemochromatosis and use it, in the blood pool. So blood donation or removal of blood, however you can do it, that's the treatment for the hemochromatosis. I also say avoid things that build iron levels because you already got too much. Stay away if you didn't have enough reasons to avoid the red meat, by all means, avoid the red meat completely.
Yes.
Wow.
And she says the doctor takes a unit of blood every 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Your turn.
Okay. Why is it that everyone talks about how high cholesterol is bad, but never talk about how high calcium times worse than high cholesterol, tends to be worse than high cholesterol?
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of factors that are harmful, and we've been talking about this with the Methuselah Factor program. If you look at some of these factors, like fibrinogen, viscosity, even white blood count, this question here talking about the calcium. Calcium's really interesting because if you look at people with higher calcium levels, is the calcium bad or is it the high dairy that they're often consuming? Okay? So some of these, you can't always answer these questions easily, but here's the point. What everyone's coming together on, if you look at the research, it's exercise regularly, get adequate rest, avoid the animal products as much as possible, eat more plant products, drink plenty of water, trust in God, and be socially connected. We haven't talked about that, but in both our books, a huge message. We need to be more connected. Prevention 2019, what was one of the big lectures I heard? Talking about the epidemic of loneliness, disconnection in people. What I tell people when I speak in a church, I say, you don't have to apologize. If you're doing one of my programs in your church, if you've got my videos, you're doing a blood pressure series, people are getting more benefit by coming to your church with other people going through the program than just reading my books. Yeah, I love people. Buy the books, buy the videos, but there's no substitute for going through it together. That's why I'm so excited that you guys are doing the Methuselah Factor program together, socially connected.
That's right, I like that. Social interaction makes a difference.
That's a good one right there.
Another caller, Beverly from Kansas, says, I use Botox for a medical condition to help my
blepharospasm. So it has to do with the eyelids,
Oh,
okay. Is that okay? If not, what would it be? What would be a better solution?
Okay. So there are some concerns with the Botox, but it is being used for spasmodic conditions, whether it's in the voice box area with the eyes, other places. It's being used for migraine headaches. I'm not saying there's no place to use it, but the cosmetic use of Botox, this is the message, if it's being used to treat wrinkles that are involved in smiling, there is a connection between that and increased problems with depression. So I'm just saying, you think you're making yourself look better, but you're actually getting yourself more depressed. I mean, it's tragic, but it's true. Now, if you treat the frown lines with Botox, it can improve your mood.
Okay.
So just make sure if you're seeing the plastic surgeon for Botox injections, they treat the frown lines so I smile more, and hopefully you'll get the best of both worlds.
Okay.
More muscles to frown than to smile.
Yeah, to treat. We want to smile more. That's what we want. We want to smile more.
Let's get this in real quick. My name is Carolyn. I have a question for Dr. D. I'm 30 years old, 5 kids. Each pregnancy I get shaky, weak, exhausted after eating and even drinking water. My blood sugar's fine. My blood pressure's fine. What else could it be?
Yeah, one of the things that we're looking at more closely is vitamin B12.
Oh, yes.
And, you know, we speak about that in the Methuselah Factor and in the 30 Days to Natural Blood Pressure Control. I would definitely have the B12 level checked. And here's the interesting thing. Even people that are being told they have normal B12 levels, many times would benefit from getting more. There was just a report out, just came across my desk in one of the medical journals this month, saying that if you're not treating B12 in people with Parkinson's disease, you may be under-treating the Parkinson's. So try to ramp up the B12. It's one of the common causes of lower energy level and other issues.
Because the doctor told me I had issues with vitamin D. My vitamin D was low.
Vitamin D is also a problem, and if your vitamin D level is not good, it will predispose to high blood pressure. It can also worsen blood fluidity because it's pro-inflammatory. You'll have more inflammation if your vitamin D levels are not good. So 2 big vitamins, 2 important vitamins that we have to keep on the radar screen. One is vitamin D. We used to call it the sunshine vitamin.
Yes.
And the other is vitamin B12. Both are very important when we're looking at optimizing blood fluidity and optimizing blood pressure.
Is it my turn, babe?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I've had a blood clot in one leg a year later, found another one in the other leg. They put me on that medical word.
Okay, nattokinase,
Okay, to help with the blood clots. Would you recommend this to anyone else with the same issue?
Basically, kind of the standard treatment that's been used for blood clots over the years is warfarin or Coumadin, and there's a lot of change going on in the medical community as far as what are optimal medications to treat clots, and that's whether they're blood clots in the legs or clots, going to the lungs, or preventing clots in the heart when people have this atrial fibrillation, this quivering of the heart. Here's what I would say. Make sure whatever you do, whatever doctor's prescribing things, that there is research base for what you're doing. I've seen many people experiment with natural things to try to thin their blood that didn't work. Then they end up with a stroke or some other serious problem. So make sure there's research evidence supporting it. That's what I'm telling people. But it's a rapidly changing area where the recommendations are changing.
Okay. Someone in South Korea just wrote, they said, is fermented food good for health? Can eating foods with chili pepper or other spice be beneficial to health? It makes my nose run. So could it help with a cold? I'm living in South Korea, American living in South Korea. Have so many foods are made with chili peppers. I eat spicy food occasionally. Fermented foods are also common in this country.
Yeah, the fermented foods are very interesting. So if you think about it, what foods are fermented? I mean, they're generally plant products. So a lot of these fermented foods have good things in them. They have phytochemicals, but fermentation can introduce some things that are not ideal. Fermentation processes, decay processes, they can cause carcinogens. We find this in cheese even. Okay, people are surprised to learn that. I say in general we're better off with fresh foods rather than fermented foods. Now I know some places, limited growing seasons and all, people have to do the best they can, but if you can avoid the fermented foods, that's generally better. The hot, spicy foods actually irritate the nervous system in the gut, which irritates the nervous system in the brain. There are connections there. I am concerned about that. We also do have some concerns about long-term health effects of the spicy foods, so you got to be careful there.
That's right. Okay. What does Methuselah mean? You missed the beginning of the program.
Okay. So we've been talking about the Methuselah Factor. And again, just to recap, Methuselah, the longest lived person on this planet.
That's right.
What I know as a physician is that he had to have good blood fluidity. So we've been using the term Methuselah Factor as a synonym for having good blood fluidity. So when we wrote the book, we could have just as well called this book Chemo Rheology.
Oh, man,
okay.
Really sell.
But if we said, John, we want to do a show on Chemo Rheology, you'd say, forget it, Taylor, no one's interested. But the Methuselah Factor, people can connect with it. We find they can remember it rather than Chemo Rheology.
Yeah.
That's true. Should I ask this one?
I'll do mine. I have gratis, Gatritis.
Garitis?
And polyp in my colon that keeps they keep changing my medication. What can I do?
Let me see what
I don't know.
I know sometimes things get a little bit lost in the, gastritis.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that took some interpreting. That wasn't spelled that way.
Okay.
Okay, so gastritis is an inflammation or irritation of the stomach. And then polyps are growths. Often we hear about them in the colon.
Yeah.
So here's the deal. With gastritis, there are natural things that we can do. It's these general lifestyle principles we've been talking about. So they're the same principles we talk about in the Methuselah Factor or 30 Days to Natural Blood Pressure Control. But avoiding the caffeine, avoiding even decaffeinated coffee, avoiding cigarettes, tobacco products, okay? Controlling stress. So these things can all help with that. As far as the colon, the whole plant foods, one of the best things you can do to decrease colon polyps. So eat that plant-based diet. That's the best insurance to avoid colon cancer and colon polyps.
Great.
One more before we start winding down. I have a hiatal hernia. Can that muscle heal itself in the esophagus?
Okay, so hiatal hernia, you have the stomach is kind of bulging up into the chest area. So you've still got that lower esophageal sphincter, that band of muscle, but you don't have the diaphragm, that other big muscle supporting it.
Right.
So many of the people we see who have hiatal hernias still with a healthy lifestyle can decrease their problems. Let me tell you one other secret that we haven't mentioned.
Yes.
Put 4 to 6 inch blocks under the head of your bed if you have problems with reflux at night.
Yes.
That gravity effect for many people will make a big difference.
Whoa.
Wow, you know, we have a lot of questions, but our time is running away from
Yeah,
us,
it
and I've
is.
just been enjoying this program, and I know that if you're driving or sitting at home watching the program, you've been learning a lot. Have we learned a lot, honey?
A whole lot.
And we shook on a challenge.
Yes, we
I
did.
want to thank Dr. DeRose, and if you could put some information up, I want to be able to give you some information that you need to get in touch with Dr. David DeRose. You know, now I see why you are one of our favorites. Go to compasshealth.net. That's COMPASSHEALTH.net, or 1844 M Factor. 1844. The number, honey?
632-2867.
That's right, 1844. That's 1844. And we have gone through some amazing things.
We have an
Recapping
address roll.
30 days to blood pressure control and the Methuselah Factor. Wow, I mean, how did this program get away from us? But just some quick housekeeping notes. Remember, June 5 to June 8 is camp meeting starting 2019, the Law of Love and Liberty. We are inviting you to come and be a part of that. Free food, wonderful music, great sermons, all about the loving law of God. And I want to extend my hand and thank you so much for being here, Dr. DeRose. My wife told me you're one of her favorites. Now I know why.
Yeah, I work for 3ABN Radio, and we have your programs, and people always call in whenever you are on the air.
It's always a privilege.
And if you didn't learn something by what you watched, contact us here at 3ABN for more information. But until we see you again, we pray that your health, your wealth, your commitment to Christ will be all the difference in finding that healthier lifestyle, and one day the Methuselah Factor.
Amen.
God bless you till we see you again.
Bye-bye.